Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. Arab Israelis ask, is there any point taking part in Israel's elections? No charges for the senator who had an egg slapped on his head by Egg Boy. Should Huawei be banned? The United States seems to think so. And will these whales ever be freed in Russia? And at the top of our newsfeed, Israeli elections. Nearly 6 million people are electing a new prime minister, but more than the 500,000 or so Palestinians who live under Israeli occupation say they will boycott the ballot. So in a country where their rights are being erased on a near daily basis, is apathy exactly what the Israeli state wants? Here's Adama.
Elections in Israel always offer a tough choice for Palestinians. And this time around, Arab activists are doing something they haven't done before. Instead of convincing people who to vote for, they are campaigning to get people to vote full stop. Arab Israelis are torn between ditching a democracy they say doesn't give them a voice and doing all they can to stop a right-wing coalition which will strip what few rights they have. In a viral YouTube music video called Tamar Must Vote, hip-hop star Tamar Nafar shows the fight between these two arguments in a boxing ring. The video tells us pitting Tamar versus Tamar has no winners. In 2015, Arab voter turnout was 64% compared to 72% for all Jewish people. And surveys suggest that in this election, more than half of eligible Arab voters will boycott. Arab politicians in the Knesset are a coalition called the Joint List. They won 13 of the Knesset's 120 seats in 2015, the most since the founding of the State of Israel. People between the age of 18 and 30 are most in favor of election boycotts. And there has been a strong anti-voting campaign on social media. These elections are pivotal for another reason too. The current Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is standing for a 5th term. If re-elected, he will overtake Israel's founding father David Ben-Gurion as the country's longest-serving prime minister. He said he will annex land in the West Bank where illegal Israeli settlements are being built, effectively destroying any hope of a two-state solution for peace in the region. His main rival is called Benny Gantz. He's a former IDF general who is called for pursuing peace with Palestinians, but not for recognizing a Palestinian state. And so for many Palestinians, it really doesn't matter who wins.
كلهم بيشتغلوا لاجل دولة إسرائيل من أجل مصلحتهم الخاصة. ما فيش فرق بين بنته وبين نتنياهو.
Will Palestinians choose the ballot over the boycott?
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things that have caught our eye on social media. Now, the Australian senator who had an egg smashed on his head is acting in self-defense when he slaps that boy there, police in Australia say. Fraser Anning had said that immigration was the reason that 50 people were murdered by a white supremacist at 2 mosques in New Zealand on March the 15th. William Connolly, aka Egg Boy, spoke for many in rejecting the hate espoused by Anning and smashed an egg on his head in protest. Green-collared criminals. That's how the Prime Minister of Australia is describing people who've been breaking into abattoirs to protest against the meat industry. Vegan protests have mushroomed in Australia recently, where meat consumption is only second to the amount of meat consumed in the United States. And Burger King have deleted this advert from their New Zealand Instagram account for obvious reasons. People who saw it were offended by the fact it's for a Vietnamese-flavoured burger, and the actors in the ad are trying to eat it with oversized chopsticks. The text accompanying it reads, "Take your taste buds to Ho Chi Minh City." Now, Rwanda is marking the 25th anniversary of the genocide there. Nearly 1 million people were murdered because of their ethnicity in just 100 days. And the killing began after a plane was shot down.
On April 6, 1994, the Hutu president Juvenal Habyarimana was assassinated when his plane was shot down with surface-to-air missiles. This is when the brutal killings of innocent civilians began. Just imagine, around 2,000 people were killed in this church alone. At a time when international support was needed more than ever, the Belgian-backed UN peacekeeping mission, established to prevent civil war, reduced their foothold by almost 90% to just 270 men. Humanitarian agencies estimate that around 100,000 people were killed throughout Rwanda just in the first 2 weeks. 3 months into the genocide, French government announced Operation Turquoise. The aim was to establish a safe zone to help rescue civilians, but witnesses say the French mission failed. So this is Bisesera in western Rwanda, where the controversial Operation Turquoise was held by friends. More than 50,000 people were killed here under the watch of French troops.
Instead of protecting the people who are being killed, who are the Tutsis, they came and protected the government which was in place, and they came and protected the Interahamwe militias who are killing the people.
Rero tumaze kubasobanurira baratubwiye bati nibyo koko tuje kubatabara ariko ntitwiteguye. Baratubwiye ngo dukomeze twihishe nk'uko twihishaga.
Muri iyo minsi 3 rero niho Interahamwe zakajije umurego zica abagore n'abana ku musozi Kagari.
Ikindi cyagaragaraga nuko abasirikari bo muri leta y'abatabazi bahungaga baciye muri zone Turquoise na hano mu Bisesero barabarekaga bagatambuka kandi bazi ibyo bakoze muri genocide.
The failure to protect the Tutsis from genocide not only played out on the ground in Rwanda, but also at the UN headquarters, where several cables were ignored. An example of this can be seen in the cable sent by General Romeo Dallaire, who led the UN peacekeeping mission at the time. Aggressive actions have been taken against the particular ethnic groups, against the general civilian population, and against UNAMIR, which has resulted in fatal and non-fatal casualties.
If we sent it to the security community, I mean to the Security Council of the UN, this means the big 5 knew it. All of them knew that something bad may happen in Rwanda, but they were busy.
Now, Huawei is a huge company which is trying to get bigger, but there's a problem. It has a very powerful enemy, the United States. Now, the US has been pressuring countries all over the world to not work with Huawei because they say Huawei is too close to the Chinese state. Here's Mo Hassan.
Is China about to set up an international spy network using our phones? That's what the United States thinks it's doing and is desperately trying to stop it. All of this is unfolding in a court case against one of the world's biggest telecom companies, Huawei, and the arrest of its chief financial officer. Last December, Min Wangzhou was held by Canadian border police while flying out of the country. They did this at the request of the US, who charged Wangzhou and her company with doing business with Iran in breach of sanctions reimposed by Donald Trump last year. Huawei is also accused of laundering money, obstructing justice, and stealing robot technology from competitor T-Mobile, who it's been working closely with for years. Wangzhou, who's also the daughter of the company's founder, is now suing both Canada and the US for what she says was a breach of her rights. And China is furious about all this. It's accusing Canada of being part of a witch hunt against Huawei and says the charges are unfair and immoral. Huawei's founder, Ren Zhengfei, says the arrest of his daughter is politically motivated. So, is this about more than just business? Well, there's a reason the US and other Western powers are worried about the swift rise of Huawei. And that has to do with the company's part in rolling out 5G networks across the world. And it's been scooping up contracts to set up infrastructure in more than 30 countries by doing things cheaper and faster than its competitors. Fair enough, right? Except the US thinks there's something sinister going on and says Huawei has its allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party, not to the free market, and could be using these networks to install tools to help China spy on ordinary citizens as well as governments, basically setting up a framework to collect data on billions of people all around the world. As a result, the US, Australia, and New Zealand have blocked Huawei from getting these contracts, and they're lobbying others to do the same. Now, Germany, Poland, and Japan are debating whether they should do so as well, and whether it's even legally possible. But this is all just anti-Chinese paranoia, right? Maybe not. Huawei has always had a cozy relationship with the Chinese government. It got its big break in the mid-90s when it won a contract to provide telecom equipment to the People's Liberation Army. The next year, it was assigned the national champion and given free rein across China as part of an effort to push out foreign corporations. Fast forward to today, and Huawei's become the world's biggest seller of network telecom equipment, and last year sold more smartphones than Apple. So some think the company and its founder Ren Zhengfei owe a debt of gratitude to the leaders of China. And there's another thing. Early last year, a huge story broke about the African Union headquarters, which the Chinese government had offered to finance and build in 2012. According to inside sources, there was a massive security breach, and every night for 5 years, data would be transferred from its systems to servers in Shanghai. Not only that, but when they investigated the building, they found walls ridden with bugs and recording devices. And you know who set up the computer systems in the building? That's right, Huawei. Now, there's never been official confirmation of this breach, and of course both China and Huawei deny they had anything to do with it. But even if all of this is true, would China be the first country to do this? Well, no.
The US, along with Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, have been accused for years of collecting metadata on their citizens and sharing it with each other, under an intelligence alliance known as the Five Eyes. This includes phone messages, emails, and internet data on millions of people.
So a lot of this hysteria around a foreign government tapping into your phone and stealing your secrets is likely already happening. But here's why the US is really freaking out about this. It doesn't see 5G as a telecom service, but as a military weapon. Because as everyone, including Western armies and government institutions, become more dependent on faster and more interconnected networks, the more power that could give a country like China to infiltrate their systems and steal their data. The head of Huawei, Ren Zhengfei, says it's overreacting.
They've been regarding 5G as the technology at the same level of some other military equipment. 5G is not an atomic bomb.
Still, the US is determined to stop Huawei and is threatening to cut military ties to any country that signs contracts with them.
We cannot ensure the defense of the West if our allies grow dependent on the East.
It's been around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Tuesday. A senior officer in the New Zealand Navy has gone on trial accused of hiding a little camera in the bathroom of his nation's embassy in Washington. Alfred Keating was a defense attaché in DC when the camera was discovered in 2017. He denies he placed it there. Prosecutors say the camera was not there for espionage reasons. And speaking of espionage, a Chinese woman who was caught in Donald Trump's Florida resort with loads of spy equipment has been in court. She's being held without bail, accused of lying to federal officers. Her name is Yujing Zhang, and she was found to have a device to find hidden cameras, a thumb drive containing malware, 5 SIM cards, several credit cards, and $8,000 in cash. Now, when she was found at the resort, she told the FBI she was there to use the pool, but didn't have much of a swimming costume. The United Nations are backing this, a plan for floating communities of the future. And these communities will be needed by many when sea levels rise and inundate coastal cities. This one is designed by a company called Oceanix, and the buildings on these floating platforms will apparently be able to withstand tsunamis and hurricanes. And in our Animals Doing Stuff, we bring you what we like to think is a real-life Free Willy, this time in Russia. Now, you may have seen stories of this. It's a whale jail where hundreds of orcas and beluga have been kept in pens for years. Now, they were due to be sold to aquariums in China, but the Kremlin, riding the wave of social media outrage, ordered they be released. Now, this was last year, but the mammals are still in those pens. Now, the son of Jacques Cousteau is leading a team of international scientists to get the whales released. Jean-Michel Cousteau and other marine experts say the animals should be released in phases by the summer, so some good news. And that'll be all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again tomorrow.